Now.
Good morning. We're here at the National Museum of Computing in Bletchley. Now, I don't know why I'm being so quiet. Maybe it's because there's all these books around and I feel like I'm in a library. But we are in a library, actually. And I have this gentleman here I've just met this morning for the first time. He's called Richard. Richard's a teacher of computing. And I've invited him to come here and work with us today. And I said, hey, Richard, look at this. This is Computing, or Computer Weekly, 1969. It's all about the Apollo space program and how computers... And I thought Richard was going to be really impressed. And then Richard said, oh, actually, Alan, I've got a little story to tell you. And my jaw just dropped. So you said you had one of the first personal computers that you could buy, which was a Commodore
PET 2001-8. This is in 1978. One of the first ones in the country. And one of the first computer games for those early 8-bit PCs was Lunar Lander.
So it's like that you've got a little lunar module, and you have to control it using keys.
Control the burn rate in order to try and get down to the bottom. It appeared on all the machines eventually, and yes, I used to amuse myself playing that game. But then one day in late 1978, I played a game of it against someone rather more qualified than me, and this was at home. His name was James Irwin, and he was the lunar module pilot for Apollo 15. And I actually played a game of Lunar Lander on my personal computer against him.
So I think everyone wants to know, but who won?
Modesty forbids me to say. Actually, I genuinely don't remember. He was very, very interested because he had never seen a personal computer before, and nor had most people in 1978.
A personal computer, but he would have used one of the very first portable digital computers. So your Commodore PET, you had to plug into the wall.
Yeah.
Do you know the name of this computer? The very first portable digital computer.
You're not talking about the Apollo guidance.
I am, of course, yeah.
Yes, and in fact, I said to him, looking at this rather crude graphical simulation, this must be very basic compared to what you used to real. And he said, oh no, that's actually a reasonable facsimile. And it wasn't until about 10 years later that I went to the Computing Museum, which was then in Boston in the US, and there they had a full simulation of the Apollo guidance computer, which you could try out. And I realized he wasn't exaggerating.
It doesn't have a QWERTY keyboard on it.
But I mean, the sophistication of the simulation was actually, there wasn't an awful lot they had to do. And that's why those guys were so clever, because they basically had to back up the whole computer system manually.
So this Apollo guidance computer, I don't know if you know, it's actually in the Science Museum in London at the moment. Well, there's one of them, one in a console that they used to use for training purposes. But there's nothing that says, this is the computer that put 3 people on the moon, or 2 people on the moon, or however many people. And people just walk past all the time. There's like an amazing story around that, but it's almost as amazing as yours.
I love the fact also that when they were coming down in Apollo 11, the computer overloaded several times.
1202, 1202.
You know, yes, exactly. It was an unknown code that came up, 1202. And more or less, you know, they called central support, who said, have you tried switching it off and then on again?
Well, thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you.